A great tool that you can use in your formatting to make your copy easier to read is the bulleted list. Bulleted lists are amazing for a couple of reasons. If you look at all the headlines, book titles, article titles, and YouTube titles that are based on top 10 lists, top 5 lists, etc., it's really obvious that these are effective because people love to see information organized into lists. It's easier to read, it's clearly defined, and it appeals to our brain's desire for structure. One of the best uses of a bulleted list is to break up larger blocks of text to make reading easier on the eyes. So let's look at an example of this. In this copy, you can see we have our headline, we have a subheadline that says what makes garden tomatoes taste better, and then we have a bunch of filler text. And this isn't bad, it's been broken up pretty well. There are some shorter sentences, there are some short paragraphs. But you can see right here, we have a list of 4 items that are broken up by commas and periods that would be much easier to look at if it was a bulleted list. So let's see what happens when we turn this into a bulleted list. That's what happens when we break it up. And you can see how much easier it is to look at. In fact, even when your eyes are at the title at the very top of the page, your eyes are drawn toward that list because you want to know what the list is about. And oftentimes with the bulleted list, what you'll do is your eye will be drawn to the list first, and then your eye will gravitate back up the page to the closest subtitle to find clues about what that list is about. So when you first open this article, you'd look at the headline, How to Grow Tomatoes That Explode with Flavor. And then probably the second thing your eyes will do is gravitate down toward the bulleted list. And once you've looked at the first 1 or 2 items on the list, your eyes will then track back up to the subtitle that describes the list. What makes garden tomatoes taste better? So you now know that this list is about that, and if it's something that interests you, then your curiosity is already engaged, and now you're going to start reading. So that's the power of the bulleted list. Use it anytime you have actual lists of things in paragraph form that you want to break up. Or you can also use it to offer steps, like in a how-to scenario. And the way you do that is you change it to a numerical list. So if you're talking about the top 4 things that make garden tomatoes taste better, or you're talking about 4 steps that a gardener would go through to create better tasting tomatoes, then you'd use numbers instead of bullets like that. Don't overdo this. You don't want several bulleted lists within sight of each other because then they just start to busy up the page and distract from each other. In other words, I wouldn't want to place another one up here because then there are too many lists to choose from and your eye is not going to gravitate toward one. A good rule of thumb is for a short article, 1 bulleted list. For a really long article, you could get away with using 2. But that's how you use bulleted lists to break up the text, create curiosity, and draw the reader's eye into the page.